What's going on, everyone? Golden Ticket to History coming to you today to talk about a story that I haven't brought up before on the channel, which was my time living next to a murderer. That's right. When I was in college, there was a convicted murderer who lived right across the way from where I lived. It's a story I haven't really covered on my channel. It's been on the bucket list, one of those things to go back and to record and to document and post on the channel. I just haven't done it yet. So yes, I lived in Gainesville, Florida for 7 years, and while living in Gainesville, Florida, there was a crime that took place in Gainesville while I was a resident there. And the individual who carried out the crime lived in the same complex that I did. And, I wanted to share my experiences to what I saw and what those experiences were like living with a killer across the street. So, in 2012, I remember coming home one day and noticed that there was an increased amount of police presence in my complex versus what normally would happen. One of the things about living in a college town is that from time to time there will be police vehicles stopping by places, taking statements, taking testimonies. Things happen. People steal things, people drive under the influence, people have accidents, hit and run. Every once in a while you will see a police presence in various different apartment complexes. Sometimes it's noise complaints, but this time was a little bit different. I noticed that there was an increased presence of police vehicles. I also noticed that there was some federal agents that were also assisting the Alachua County and Gainesville Police Departments in their investigation in my complex. And this is when the news broke not long afterwards that there was an individual who was missing, a University of Florida student who was missing, and that there was a Santa Fe student who was suspected of being the murderer in the case, or having something to at least do with the fact that the University of Florida student was missing. The U.S. student's name was Christian Aguilar. I believe that's how I pronounced the name. I apologize if I mispronounced it. And the individual who was believed to have committed the crimes was a guy by the name of Pedro Bravo. And that was the person who lived in my complex. Pedro did. And what ended up happening was there was a love triangle. There was a big TV special done a few years ago that dove deep into the story of this love triangle. But I'm telling it to you from the first perspective. I did not know any of the individuals involved in the case personally. However, there's a good chance that I probably sat on the same bus next to some of them. I probably was in the same computer lab. I probably swam in the same pool as them. Maybe I got my mail next to them. Maybe I was walking across the sidewalk when they were coming out of their apartment. So there's a high chance that I probably crossed paths with one of the individuals, specifically Pedro Bravo. And what ended up happening was you had a love triangle. So you had three individuals. You had Pedro Bravo, you had Christian Aguilar, and you had Erica Freeman, who was a female involved. Apparently they all were friends in high school. At least the two gentlemen were friends in high school, Pedro and Christian. And when they went off to college, I guess they both had dated Erica at different times. And I believe that Christian dated her first, and then maybe Pedro dated her first. I'm not sure about all the details of who dated who first. But I do know that Erica did have a relationship with both individuals separately before the crimes took place. But what ended up happening was at the time of the crime is when Christian was dating Erica. They all were friends in high school, all moved to Gainesville together, were going to school. Christian got to the University of Florida. Pretty sure that Erica was in the University of Florida as well. Pedro was a Santa Fe student, and apparently he had an idea. I guess jealousy started to kick in. He was friends with them, but he didn't like the fact that he no longer was in the relationship with Erica. Therefore, he wanted to do something to change that. So he hashes a plan. And this plan is to kill his best friend in the hopes that by doing so, he could slide back into relationships with Erica as if nothing had happened beforehand. And this is where the story gets a little weird. Well, apparently, leading up to this point in time, Pedro was going to various different locations over there in Archer Road, which is a main strip that runs through Gainesville, picking up various different items to carry out the crime. He picked up a shovel from Walmart. This is some surveillance video from the Walmart that, well, it was the original Walmart that's now closed down. Walking out with the shovel, he picked up some tape and some bags, some other materials from Walmart, as well as he picked up a few things from the Lowe's that was right next door. Both of these locations have been demolished, and there is now new stores about a block away. There's a new Walmart and a new Lowe's. But he picked up all these different materials, and I guess some of the store owners thought it was kind of strange, some of the items that he was buying. Like, it's not very common for someone to come in and buy trash bags, maybe zip ties, and a shovel in the same store. Or maybe buying trash bags, gloves, and duct tape at the same time. It kind of creates a red flag as to maybe what is this person using these resources for, these materials for. So they take and do sort of question it. And when Pedro is arrested, they find the receipts for all the things that he was purchased. They eventually start searching through his apartment, and right outside of his apartment, they find a shovel that's stuck underneath there's a little wooden pathway, kind of was a little raised, little wooden sidewalk, and underneath it, there was a little bit of a gap between the dirt and the sidewalk. And apparently, he tried to hide the shovel underneath there, and the police found the shovel. They found some other materials. They found the receipts. And I guess when they started looking at his phone, apparently he asked Google, where should I hide my roommate? And Google gave some responses. And a few days went by, they couldn't find Christian. Couldn't find him anywhere. Missing reports were out. And there was some hunters who were out in Cedar Key, which is a oceanfront town about an hour or so west of Gainesville in the Gulf of Mexico. And in the wooded area out there by Cedar Key, some hunters find a body, to which later through DNA testing they find out that it was Christian's body. So now they have the body. Now they have a potential perpetrator. They have evidence of him purchasing items to carry out such a crime, and then they look in his phone records and find that he Googled where to hide my roommate. And it gave him the locations of Cedar Key. So he gets arrested. And while he's arrested, you see all of these police presence, in their apartment complex, going through things constantly for days and days and days and days and days go by. And then you see the trial happens, and eventually they take and they find Pedro Bravo guilty of 7 different crimes, ranging from first-degree murder to kidnapping, to the improper disposal of a body, the improper transporting of a body, to poisoning. There's all these different charges that he receives, and he receives life in prison without the possibility of parole. And so this event happens. 2012 is when the crime took place. 2014 is when he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without parole. All this time, I still lived in the same complex, and I lived there for a few years afterwards. And one of the things that I felt, kind of weird about was the fact that every time I walked by, I didn't know that a murderer lived in that apartment complex, which raised a lot of questions. Did the victim, the night he was drugged, that happened in that apartment building, in his room? Did that victim hang out there before? Did he bring the body there? Was the body in the car in the parking lot and I walked by it? This is the thoughts that have gone through my head since the event occurred. Was there any suspicious activity that people should have picked up on? Should I have picked up on some of the suspicious activity? I picked up on some stuff in where I lived. There was a time when the guy was going around jiggling people's handles. I thought he was trying to break into people's vehicles. He ended up just sticking handbills advertising papers on people's cars. So I called the emergency number, and they came and they talked to the guy. Apparently he was handing out advertisements for a local business, but it's like 11:30 at night, and you see someone walking around taking car to car and messing with door handles. The assumption is that maybe he's trying to break into vehicles. But I digress on that story. Back to the Pedro Bravo, Christian Arkler, and Erica Freeman story. So after he moved out, new people moved to the apartment that he lived in. And I felt a sense of obligation, but also felt a sense of, hesitation. Should I let people know what took place in that apartment complex? And that's a hard question to answer. When you know something happened somewhere, you feel that you have an obligation to tell them, especially because of the fact that Florida law does not require anyone to let you know if someone died in a location. It doesn't have to let you know if there was a crime scene there. It doesn't have to let you know any of that information. That is not a requirement by Florida law. So businesses, apartment complexes, retailers, realtors, any of these people, they don't have to tell you if a crime took place in a location. It all can be kept excluded from the buying report. You don't have to know that happened unless you seek out and do research and find out for yourself. It's also a reason why some people, when people find out that house is haunted, people are like, wow, I should have known this house was haunted. Well, you should have done research, I guess, beforehand to find out if someone did die in the house, or if a crime took place in that house, or if there's any potential reason to suspect that paranormal activity would exist or a crime had taken place in the house. But there is no legal obligation that's placed on the homeowners, the realtors, the lessees, any of those individuals. They don't have to let you know. So I felt an obligation. However, the whole time I lived there, all the years afterwards, I never got around to telling anybody because I just felt weird about it. I've been wanting to go back to this location, to show the apartment complex, to show what the locations were, where the resources were picked up,